Click the minutes.
Sorry. I was doing my other task here, George,
Gotcha.
trying to see who was here and all that stuff.
Bob, did you see me sneaking?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, I didn't.
I think the only one not here is Richard.
Yeah. Does anybody have any additions or corrections or comments on the minutes? If not, the minutes stand approved as presented. All right, so we're gonna
Sorry.
look at our section 2021-004.
So after the last meeting, we made just a couple of changes down here. Let me see if I can find them on here for you real quick. I highlighted them in yellow. I hope. But we'll go through this again one more time. So we amended the post-decision requests. I think Betsy, you sent me that list, didn't you?
I sent you something, yeah,
Yeah, I think this is basically what you sent me.
okay.
Anybody take a look at that?
It's much simpler than it was.
And I think that's the way we wanted it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Anybody have any questions or?
In number 4 there, shouldn't it say the shall schedule a hearing of the appeal rather than rehearing?
Oh.
Okay, I think they're referring to the original appeal to the BZA, but yeah, we can put hearing instead of rehearing.
Well, I mean, I don't think it is a rehearing. It's an appeal, right?
Right,
So it's a
Right.
brand new hearing.
okay. Okay,
Yeah, that looks good. I'm wondering, and maybe Jim has an answer to this. I like having that layer in there going through the court system. Is that, do most municipal planning commissions or planning commissions do that, or is it about 50-50 those that go straight to, you know, to the whatever court system the certiorari would take? them
well,
to?
so I put a thing on here that the mayor sent me about the Honorable Ed Haley weighing in on this, which for the city of
Mhm.
Lakeland,
Oh, I see it now.
Jim,
Small world, right? That's before my time, I'll say.
his opinion it is that it does not go, none of these go to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. They can only go to the court. That the BZA is I believe, I'm just paraphrasing here, Mayor, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a quasi judicial legislative judicial body, and appeals should only go to court, or which of course we're going to allow them to go back to the BZA one more time before they go to court.
Well, that's what I was asking. I mean, I understand they go to court. I just wondered what percentage of planning commissions have allowed them. I like the latitude of having them come back because it means they don't have to engage an attorney yet. You know, it might be resolved before having to go to court. Well, we
Right,
didn't have that before, and I like it. I just
Yeah.
wondered what precipitated it. Is it because that's the trend and that's where it's a lot of planning commissions are going, that they'll have a post-hearing, rehearing, or additional appeal first?
So when I was working on the BZA stuff, I looked at maybe 5 or 6, 7 cities, BZA, and several of them had it in there. I don't remember how many, probably 2 or 3 had them in there.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good idea.
Oh,
And
I
then
think it is too.
I of course put the, the longest version down possible. So we've narrowed that down because, we probably have 1, 2, 3 board, BZA meetings a year that would require an appeal of any kind, I would think. So, I don't see it happening very often, but
Yeah.
these people like Franklin that have regularly scheduled BZA meetings, they need some more stuff in there, more guidelines in there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that. I just, my thought process was that before someone has to engage an attorney and get it heard by a court, and I have no idea what the time frame is before it would be heard, it would certainly be capable of being heard or reviewed by the BZA quicker and could maybe be resolved without having it be protracted. And so I guess my only concern was, since they have 60 days, does that mean nothing can really be done because it could be undone? If it's subject to appeal, does that prevent the person who, I guess you could appeal it on either side. So if we allowed something to occur that the BZA allowed, there would be 60 days before someone could comfortably act on it, or it could be undone. Is that right? I mean, because I can't even think of a specific thing that we'd be acting on a variance. If it was the normal variances, it shouldn't be offensive to anybody. If we allowed it and the neighbor didn't like it and waited 60 days or 59 days to the next meeting, could he have it undone, everything that the first neighbor had done? That's rambling. Do you know what I'm asking? Does anybody
Yep.
know what I'm asking?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think the appeals are mainly going to be filed by the applicants after you deny something. So
Okay.
it's sort of their choice. They could proceed without the approval, like without the variance approval, and just build something, say, within the setback without the latitude, or take the time to go through the either the rehearing and then even, go to court if they really feel like they got a raw deal with the city.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that even a neighbor or an interested party would have standing in the court to file an appeal through the court system. I'm not sure that, but my experience with it says that they would probably not. So I think this would fall back mainly to just the applicant filing this appeal.
If you read 27.9.101, it says anyone who may be aggrieved by any final order or judgment of any board or commission functioning under the laws of this state may have the order or judgment reviewed by the courts, where not otherwise specifically provided in the manner provided by this chapter. So that would, now whether a judge would give a neighbor standing, I don't know, but it appears that they could.
Yeah. Probably doesn't happen very often, but yeah, I read something that talked about how would you establish that you were an aggrieved party? Is it enough that you're the next door neighbor and you don't like it? You have to have some financial.
You have to have new evidence to bring it back, right?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
But I think to your point, the trouble you get into if someone was given standing, they went to court and won their appeal, but in the meantime, the property owner already went and built something in accordance to the approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals, then you have a little problem on your hands.
Yeah, but I'm sure that most planning commissions are in this same boat, aren't they? One way or another, whether they have this second appeal or whether they go to court. If they go to court and they win, no one has just waited to do what they're doing. The odds are they have gone ahead and proceeded, and you either have it required to be undone or financially recompensed, I guess. But it's not much we can do about that aspect of it.
Right. And I've never seen that happen. I don't think it's very common, like you said.
I don't either. Okay,
Very
I think this is very streamlined and covers what we want to cover. And does anybody have any other discussion about this 14.2.205 section? I think we should include it. Okay.
And then the only other change I think I made was at the end, where the mayor noticed that the table listed communication towers as telecommunication towers, and the ordinance mentioned it as communication towers. So we're just going to change it so they're both the same. So we would just change telecommunication to communication on the table of uses. So they're the only two big changes. Well, I wouldn't call that one a big change, but those are the changes I made since I think we reviewed just about everything on here.
As I was looking at this in your section 3, right below the yellow part there.
Yep.
Where it says the rezoning process, and you've got that set to go in 14.2.10.03.
Yes, sir.
Would that not be more appropriate in the section of the ordinance that talks about amending the ordinance?
Okay, hang on a second. Let me get my ordinance up here.
Well, 14.2.105 talks about amendments. It would just seem to me that if you're going to then describe how that process, that would be more likely to be there than be over in the section where you're establishing districts.
Okay. So you would maybe put it at 14.2.107
No, I'd probably make it a part of
of that one.
14.2.105.
Okay.
What do you think, Jim?
You go to that, you go to the section you just referenced? 14.2, you said 205?
Hang on
Yeah.
a second. Here's my rezoning process. And then here's 14.2.105.
And it talks about how you amend the zoning ordinance. And it seems to me that's where you would list the process to do a rezoning rather than over where you're establishing districts.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine, because it even mentions there in that first sentence, regulations, restrictions, and boundaries, which would be zoning district boundaries, I would assume. So yeah, I think that makes some sense to put it in that section. And I'm assuming that all the amendments would follow the same process done by ordinance, whether it be a text amendment or a rezoning.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I can combine those two paragraphs. Let me just get it written here in my head. Okay.
Is that it for item 4 then? Are we ready for item 5?
Well, do you want me to redo that language and then bring it back one more time?
We're not under the gun, might as well.
Okay. Until we have a BZA meeting.
Right, yeah, that's right.
which there possibly may be a PZA meeting coming up. There's a use not listed on, in the general business district that somebody wants to do, and they may be coming here for a very,
Special exception.
a special exception, yeah.
Bob, he emailed me today, and yes, he is getting me that request.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy.
Mhm.
So we might be having a BZA meeting on March the 9th.
Yes, that's correct.
That's that Moscow connection down there, Stacy. Your voice is breaking up.
Yeah, mine's not doing too good tonight. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, so we're ready to move on to item 5, which is a discussion about digital signage.
Yep. We had a situation where we had someone who wanted to put a display, a dynamic sign up right there on Highway 64. We didn't really want to do it, but we didn't really have any way to tell them not to do it. I think we need some guidance or some regulations regarding dynamic signs, electronic signs. They're all types of dynamic signs, which are electronic display signs. So is there a question, somebody? No, okay. I've been I put this together a couple of months ago, and I just been sitting around waiting for us to have a time to maybe get to it. And first part here is our definitions to be added to the definition section there. The different types of dynamic signs, electronic display signs, which are all types of dynamic signs. The different types of display on those electronic messaging signs. Static display, which means it doesn't change at all, no animation, just sits there. Then you got a fade and the dissolve, the changing the letters. The traveling sign, which is just, you know what that looks like, a ticker tape. And then a scrolling message, which changes all the time. So, and then a menu board, which basically doesn't do a whole lot. Anyway, so what the zoning districts they might be permitted in. And then here are the rules and regulations regarding dynamic signs, and that's basically it. So I guess the meat of the whole thing is 14.2-807 dynamic signs. And it shows you that dynamic signs are permitted in accordance with general business, redevelopment district, and the manufacturing districts. Those dynamic signs are prohibited in all residential districts and central business district and limited business district. So
What would you call a sign? I would think this would also be a dynamic sign that has neon that changes to make it appear like the example I'm thinking of is a sign in a bowling alley that has 3 different phases of presentation where there's the ball and the pins, and then the pins get knocked down. Or
well, that's true. I could address that. So in this ordinance, you have to have 10 seconds between each change in your sign, because if you have the more changes you have, the more chances of drivers actually being distracted by looking at what that sign is saying to you. And we don't want drivers to be any more distracted than they already are. And that's part of this. Part of this stuff has to do with the safety of people driving also. So, yes, I agree with you, George. I didn't really put neon signs on there, but I don't know if I didn't really check to see whether the rest of the ordinance actually addresses neon signs. Does it?
It seems like we had a discussion about this when Main Street Eatery wanted to put up a, I can't remember if it was a neon sign or if it was a backlit sign or something like that. So I feel like it's been addressed, but I don't remember the specifics. But it seems like, some of those vintage signs that you maybe have in the back of your mind would be cool in a downtown situation. Like, I don't know, like a neon sign that has 3 phases that has an arrow that goes down, down, and then turns into the building, like eat here, or something like that.
Eat
Where
at Joe's.
That's not the same as a digital sign. Digital signs are very bright and very distracting.
Right.
So I guess my point is I wouldn't classify them in the same, with the same regulations. And I'm wondering if they are even addressed at all.
I'm looking through it really quickly and I didn't see anything in there. It's not in the definitions what a neon sign is in our current zoning ordinance.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between a sign that's static and neon. It's just turned on and turned off, and a neon sign that has motion. So
Stacy, you use this sign ordinance a lot. Any reference to neon signs that you can remember in here? I don't think so, right?
Stacy's muted.
Off the top of my head, I cannot think of anything that says neon sign.
Yeah, and we haven't really had a lot of people come to us with a neon sign.
Well, I think what you're going to see more now, rather than neon, it's going to be LED.
That's correct. And
I
that's
mean, all of those 2 bridges in Memphis, all of that is LED lights, and they can make that do anything they want to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they probably need to consider if you can get by with describing it in a way that you're not necessarily, neon or LED or whatever, but just make it changing where it would apply, I would think, rather than start trying to list all the different ways that with technology now they can change something.
I think dynamic sign is a good catch-all term to describe several different types of dynamic signs, and then you like maybe have subcategories of dynamic signs, which I think you have here. I think I didn't quite read all that, but just point out.
So if I outline my building in LED lights, that's not going to be a sign, but is that something that you regulate?
Do we regulate Christmas lights?
No, we don't, that I'm aware of.
Well, I think we regulate it, but wouldn't we put it under lighting rather than signage?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm.
But I don't think the Christmas lights blink.
Richard, you made it.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm sorry I'm late. I'm in here.
It's not uncommon to see exemptions for holiday decorations in some ordinances. So, around the time of Christmas or any other time, holiday lighting. And it might be good to read the definition of sign, this very general definition, because usually those are pretty broad. They'll even call it something like, any attention attracting device, which you could say would be like exposed neon or exposed LEDs ringing a building. If it's meant to attract attention to something, you could probably interpret it as a sign in some ordinances.
There you go. Any object, device, graphic design, or part thereof situated outdoors or indoors, and which object, device, graphic design, or the effect produced is used to advertise, announce, identify, declare, demonstrate, display, instruct, direct, or attract attention by means of including words, letters, figures, designs, fixtures, colors, motion, illumination, sound.
There you go. We've already addressed it.
Okay.
So
It sounds to me like they probably should come before the board to get their sign okayed. I mean, before the
planning commission.
planning commission, yeah, to get the sign okayed. Like Main Street Eatery did. Because there aren't that many signs going up.
No, there aren't that many. But we already have people in town that, 2 people that put signs up without a permit. So we're working on that. That we just noticed today. So,
Okay. Are they good signs or annoying?
they're just static signs. They don't do anything.
Okay, okay.
What do you do to a business who's been around a while, and are they signs going to be grandfathered in if they put up something real nice and new LED?
If they have an older LED sign, is that what you're asking me?
If they bring their business up to core and they put a new sign on an old business, is that considered grandfathered in with the business?
No, I don't think so, Richard. Just me. I'm going to tell. I don't know if anybody has a different opinion, but what I would say is if they have an LED sign intact right now, like say the Baptist Church down the street here in Main Street has a LED sign in front of their church. If they were to change that sign, they would have to adhere to the current zoning ordinance, current sign ordinance. However, if they would just leave it the way it is, or, you know, they could keep it forever, I would imagine. If it doesn't, if it doesn't comply with this new ordinance. So anything that would change or be installed new after the date of the ordinance, then that would have to adhere to the new sign ordinance.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but all old signs can stay. So,
Okay.
but the business itself wouldn't. It's not the determining factor. It's the sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what you're asking me, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that correct, Jim? As far as you can tell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right on.
Because you're going to get the question if that comes up. I'll be calling you, you know, just to verify my opinion.
Yeah.
I could say, Jim said.
Yeah. And that's really across the board for really anything non-conforming. State law protects a lot of that, and when you have to comply and under what circumstance.
Yeah. I don't know if I added that non-conforming thing in there or not. I didn't. Yeah, yeah, there it is right there. Any dynamic sign in existence prior to the passage of this ordinance may continue as a non-conforming sign. Alterations, location, design, size, shape, or display of an existing non-conforming sign shall require conformity to this ordinance. So that's what it.
Yeah, and a good distinction there, and it has to be covered in TCA, is simple maintenance would not trigger requiring compliance at that point. So if they're going to change out a bulb or two, they could do that under general maintenance. But if they change the location, design, size, shape, or display, then you'd have to come into compliance.
Probably change the screen if the screen blew out and they had to put a new one in, as long as it doesn't change the size or what they're doing.
Right.
I mean, they could basically fix the sign if it was in existence.
Yeah. Usually with any kind of sign, if you're leaving the structure in place and only changing the face of the sign, it's maintenance. But if you change the structure in any way, then it would trigger full compliance usually.
Well, except if it's like a static sign that somebody changes the face on, a new business comes in, then they get.
I don't know that if they don't change the size or the shape, you can't regulate the content, can you, Jim?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Generally, if the face changes, which would be the content of it, really nothing you can do with that. It's just maintenance, and you can do that all day long.
You can regulate foul language, can't you? Offensive language?
Yes, that's in
Okay.
the ordinance.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we had that issue come up with the Trump no BS signs, flags flying around town. Sorry. Spilled out.
Well, I mean, I guess you could tell somebody they can't do that, but I'm not going.
Well, we had a complaint in the neighborhood that a person had a flag with the word SHIT on it, and they didn't like it. So,
Well, I wouldn't like it either, but I don't think that you could actually make them take it down.
Yeah, I think in most ordinances have provisions that would prevent that. But like
Yeah.
the mayor said, if challenged, I'm not sure, unfortunately, that it would stand up.
so
I
she
don't
took,
think it would.
Yeah.
she took the flag down and sewed a poop emoji on top of the word. So it basically was the same effect anyway.
Yeah. And I think you try to prevent it whenever you can, those kind of things that are just in horrible taste.
Well,
But
the kids,
again, if challenged,
they
I
got
don't
kids
think,
in the neighborhood and everything, they don't need to see all that.
yeah.
So going back to the general nature of this, I
Yeah.
think in agreement, we need this in the ordinance, and this seems to cover, it looks like it covers everything we want. The one question that we have brought up, or that George has brought up, is that I could see wanting to allow a signage that is in keeping with a retro vintage or old time square look on the square. I would like to be able to allow that, but I think it's going to take some research into what it needs to say to allow it, where it won't allow things that are offensive and too bright and too everything else. I'd like to see some work done in that area, because I think that's an important aspect of
Well,
this.
So neon signs, I mean, I can address that in another ordinance, I mean, I can just, I can work on some of that stuff. This would just be covering dynamic signs. I mean, I started working on the whole entire sign ordinance. I didn't really want to do all that. So this is a way to at least address one issue, which are dynamic signs, electronic display signs.
And I guess my point was that neon signs that move are dynamic signs.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
the definition of dynamic, means it moves. or
Okay.
Appearance. So that's
So we could,
my
if
whole
we
point.
add that to the definitions, then it says neon sign, it gives you a definition of neon sign, and then it says a neon sign by definition is a dynamic sign, then it is included in this ordinance.
Well, but not if it's not moving.
Yeah, not all.
Okay. Right, okay, that's right.
I mean, I don't think you need to worry about neon versus LED. I mean, we need to write it in such a way that it doesn't matter how you're doing it, whether you're doing it with LEDs or with neon or whatever. The movement is what we're looking to regulate, right?
Well, no, because not according to what Betsy just said, and I agree with her, is that a dynamic neon sign would be acceptable, let's say on the square, but a dynamic LED sign would not.
Well, I'm even not so, I'm not opposed to a dynamic LED if it replicates a neon look. I mean, it's the look I'm going for, not the nature of it.
I agree.
So that's where I'm kind of lost on how you phrase it. That would allow you to have a dynamic neon sign, or one that replicates a dynamic neon sign on the square that's compatible, but you have to have approval from the Planning Commission. I'd like to end up with that ability to control a very specific type of dynamic sign on the square.
So do we want it to look like George Bailey's Nightmare and It's a Wonderful Life signs, all that? Is that what we want it to look?
I don't know what I want it to look like. There's going to be a fine line between what I would like and
what about downtown Memphis, old time downtown Memphis?
Right, but do we really want Somerville Square to look like Memphis though? I mean, Beale Street?
No. But
well, actually, I've seen some historic photos of old downtown Somerville, and I could swear I remember dynamic neon signs in those photos. What looked like.
I'll tell you, if you look on the front of the museum building, there are two irons that are attached to the brick itself. It's on the west side of the front of the building, where it looks like there was a display sign that was attached to those irons. You can see it. It looks, they're like iron hooks. And, you know, there was something that stuck out from that building at one time.
That was a sign, that was a shoe store, and I'm trying to remember what kind of shoes that was. Yes, a very elaborate sign, if I remember correctly. Of course, it's been a while since I've seen
I would
that,
love
but,
to put something back up there, Mayor. You know, I thought something we could put on there to, for the museum itself, but, you know, at some point in the future. But I thought it was pretty cool that those irons are still there and probably still usable, I would imagine.
And I think one of the retro signs would look great on the museum. And
Yeah.
it might be a catalyst to other people deciding to do the same thing.
Yep. Well, I can do a little bit more research on this and see what we can do with it. I'll address some of this stuff.
If you don't mind throwing something out there real quick, a possibility. I'm intrigued by the town square idea. So I guess one of the questions would be, do you want to allow those types of sort of historically appropriate signage, or do you want to encourage it or require it? I guess it'd be two very distinct questions. And the point I'm trying to make is, I think what you could do, handle downtown or on the square, is sort of like under a sign plan type of requirement, where anybody who's wanting to put a sign up on the square would have to go through a sign plan, which would give the planning commission discretion on what the sign looks like. Very similar to, say, how plan development works. I think y'all are familiar with the plan development overlay, where you have like a neighborhood coming in where it doesn't really matter what the zoning is underneath, but you have this overlay plan development, which is like a customized neighborhood. You create sort of customized setbacks and bulk regulations and whatnot. And it's meant for only that single project and not across multiple zoning districts and whatnot. So you, in that case, the board of mayor and aldermen have discretion over what's approved. The same can be true for a sign plan, where it allows you to operate a little bit outside of the ordinance. So you're not opening the ordinance to everybody for all these different possibilities, but it gives you a chance to look at an individual project or an individual application and determine its appropriateness. And you put some boundaries in the ordinance to guide you, but you'd have a little bit more discretion. That would allow certain signs to come in that maybe wouldn't otherwise be allowed. Now that would help in that regard if you're trying to encourage or force someone to do something a little more creative or historically appropriate. That'd be another matter, I believe.
I like that idea.
I do too.
Just anecdotally on my shop, what I wanted to do was total retro, old town, carved letters that just say architecture across the top of the building. I looked into it, and it was going to be well over $1,000. And you know, the sign I bought and installed was like 210, if I remember correctly. And I know that, you know, getting businesses up and running in this town is paramount. So
It's tough.
Well, the other thing we could do is maybe, I don't know, Jim, throwing it at you, maybe we could allow dynamic signs in the central business district by special exception only. Just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
That way it comes to the BZA, or would require them to go to the design review or whatever. I don't know. We have to think about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that'd be one option of just finding a way to give you a little discretion so you can look at an individual sign. And, you know, I think the problem becomes where if you have something permitted by right and they come in and you absolutely hate it and it's not appropriate for where it's going in, you know, changing that would allow you to have some discretion where you could say, no, that's not quite right. Or what you're applying for is not permitted, but we really like what you're doing and we have the discretion to approve what you're doing, because we have either a sign plan or a special exception process they can go through.
yeah, I like that idea.
Mhm.
Bless you.
So rather than writing a whole long thesis on that, Jim, just add a sentence in here that says allowed by special exception.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that'd be better because when you try to capture it all in the ordinance, then you're going to miss something. You're not going to write it correctly. It's going to be, that's when it
Right.
gets chaotic, I think, in the ordinance.
Well, that sounds good.
I agree.
Bob, these definitions in numbers 1 through 5, where did those definitions come from?
Some ordinance that I found.
You broke up. Did you say some report?
Some ordinance that I found somewhere. This comes right from somebody's ordinance. I don't know which one. I could probably find it on my computer.
Well, when we do that, we need to kind of know where it came from, because if we wind up in court, we need to see if they went first and what happened.
Well, that was kind of my thinking, you don't want to follow just everybody.
That's right.
Let me see if I can find it quickly. If I can find it quickly, I can answer your question. No, I'm not going to find it quickly.
It's not a deal breaker. It's just a curiosity thing. I knew, you could tell that you didn't pull it out of thin air. So
I don't pull anything out of thin air, man. I rip everything off. I rip off as much as possible.
This is creative writing.
That's right. I change the names and change some of the stuff, but it's really, it's not really my, thought all the way through.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll work on those two things for next time. And maybe we'll have a BZA meeting on the 9th and then followed up with another planning commission meeting on the 9th. I do know that we're getting very close to, and this really doesn't concern the planning commission too much, but I got a call from the engineer working on hedgerows today or yesterday, and they're getting close to bringing construction plans to us for review by our engineer. So at some point, we're going to be bringing a final plat back to the planning commission. This is probably 6 months down the road, but anyway, they're getting ready to move forward with phase 2, 3, and half of phase 5 in hedgerows, which is about 100 lots. So we'll see how that goes.
Bob, can you let me share the screen for a minute?
Sure. How do I do that, Mayor?
Just turn off your screen sharing.
Okay.
Let me see if this is going to work. I guess you may have to let me share my screen somehow, so I can't.
Yeah, because I'm the, let's see here. Hang on a second. I've done this once before, Mayor, but I don't remember how to do it. Sorry. Let me go down here real quick. Maybe I can figure that out.
You should just be able to hit share screen down at the bottom.
Well, that's what I thought. Once he's.
I think if I make you the host, you can do it. Right?
Well, yeah, I know I should be then.
Okay, well then I'm going to make you the host in just a second. You ready?
All right.
I'm going to change hosts right now. There you go. You're now the host.
Well, it's still not going to let me.
There you are.
Can you see it?
No.
What I'm trying to do is show you the sign a sign that was very similar to the one that was on the museum building, but I obviously don't understand the technology, so.
Well, if you email it back, email it to me, you can, you have to send me, you have to make me the host again, Mayor. Whoa,
Nah,
something happened there. Matt? We have some of your stuff on here.
who is that?
I don't know. I
That's
think it's,
Matt?
is that your stuff, Matt, or not?
You're muted, Matt.
Yeah, I'm muted. I don't know how to unshare, but yeah.
Well, maybe that's why I couldn't.
No, I did that right after you couldn't do it the second time, so you can blame me
Okay.
though if you want.
Well,
Am I
it
done
couldn't
sharing?
be, it couldn't be my technology skills, could it? I mean,
Could be
we know
mine.
that. Definitely not.
You've got a picture of it, Ronnie? So what shoe store was it?
Well, and I'm not sure that this, obviously, this is not the sign that was up there, but to the best of my recollection, it was a sign that was very similar to this.
If you email it to me, Mayor, and then
Well-
make me host again, I can do it.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Mr. Mayor, do you not have a green button down at the bottom that says share screen?
I do, and when I click on that,
It should give you options on what to share.
one
Yeah, you-
participant, advanced sharing options.
Oh, boy.
See, this says that all participants can share. Who can start the sharing when somebody else is sharing? All participants. And then it comes up with, when I try to do that, it comes up with a desktop one and a whiteboard and all kinds of different.
Somebody's sharing something now.
That was me. I
All
was
right,
trying pressing buttons, Matt.
so how do I make you the host again?
You go on your participants. It says
Yeah.
participants. You go down there,
Yep.
light me up, and it says make me host.
Nope, I can't do that.
Can't do it. Okay, well, you're the host for a little while, Mayor, then.
All right, never mind. All right, I did that. All right, so you're back.
Okay, all right, good.
George, are you sharing right now?
Yeah, I just tried to, as an experiment, I'll stop share there.
We're all doing it here, Mayor.
Yeah, all I did was I hit the green button.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Well, that's what I did, but I get this, I get this crazy box that wants me to,
Select something and then click the share button.
well, if I select desktop one and share, what does that do? See, it keeps asking me to open my system preferences and to allow the firewall or something, so never mind.
Yeah,
Y'all
you
don't
probably
have time for me to,
IT block on it, which is my guess. So
y'all don't have time for me to work through my technology shortcomings, I can assure you.
Well, you're in the boardroom. I can come in there and help you out.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to get my grandson over there or something.
Well, this is a
Yeah.
whole, yeah,
Grandchildren, my
Yeah.
3-year-old, my 4-year-old
Yeah.
could do it probably.
they could
I
probably
bet my
do it.
8-year-old granddaughter is probably pretty familiar with Zoom, living in
Uh-huh.
Austin.
Yeah,
They're doing virtual school back to virtual again back down there.
are they?
Yeah.
at least
think-
you don't have like a cat filter on or something like that.
I was just thinking that, Matt.
He had to tell everybody he wasn't a cat? Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some doubt.
Judge, I'm not a cat.
Okay, so we've decided the way we're going to deal with the lighting on the square is that they will have to come for a special exception.
Yeah, I'll work on some of that and I'll talk to Jim about it and I'll work on it just a little bit, see if we can make some alterations to it. and address neon signs some way.
Okay. Under other business, I'd like to just bring up something. I don't know what our time frame is and when we could do this, because we're doing a lot of things, and things are picking up somewhat. But I was looking at the land use plan that we have, and I remember when we did this. I remember when we had 1101, and everybody was scrambling, and everybody had too big of boundaries, and we put in this infrastructure, and we had this 20-year expectation of just massive growth that didn't happen. And so our existing land use plan, even though it's 15 years old, population wise, we never hit that at all. And a lot of what it contains are reasonable expectations today to even extend out. And that instead of thinking about the expense of doing a new land use plan, maybe we could do as a temporary fix an amended or an updated land use plan, because the demographics still seem very reasonable. There's the shoe.
There you go.
What's it say? Okay? Oh, that's cute. Red Goose shoes.
Yep. I think that's very similar to the sign that was up there.
That looks familiar. Oh, that would be neat. Yeah, there
That
are
would
there are
be.
things like that would add a lot to the square. If
Mhm.
people were willing and had the wherewithal to spend it. And if not, nobody should force them to do it, but we should have that option, because that's cool. So what I was saying about the land use is that the 20-year plan we had, the demographics are everything's still real viable and seems to be current. And then if we could just update it so that we could carry on for 5 years with an updated one, then we could address things that are coming up, like when you all had your board of alderman meeting and you have people objecting to where apartment complexes are going. And I have been on next door in Oakland, where you hear person after person saying there shouldn't be apartments. We shouldn't have apartments. And that seems to be the tone I'm hearing in Somerville a little, is that people are just very anti-apartment. They're trying to they don't want it in their backyard. They're not my backyard kind of people. And we need to have a situation where we're not constantly rezoning things, but that things are placed in the correct zones where we can. But we absolutely can't do that, because that requires that the owners of the existing property be cooperative. We have no reason or interest in being cooperative in that. But we don't have certain light industry, and we don't have enough maybe multifamily, and it needs to be on a current land use plan so that we can defend it when it comes up like this.
I agree with that.
So maybe we could look at it and see what it would take to just modernize our existing one until
Okay.
we're ready to spend money on a new one.
Okay. I think that
Does this one-
actually Jordan started working on some of that at one time when he was
I
here.
think he did.
And he started putting like, red dots where the intersections were, and
Yeah.
he started working on it a little bit.
Yeah. I think that would be very handy and maybe wouldn't be that difficult.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and
I'd like
Betsy, I'd say the only reason you'd want to completely replace it is if you just no longer agree with the direction that comp plan is taking you,
yeah,
which is pretty rare. I think if the general direction is good and you just want to do some tweaks to it,
yeah,
I think what you're describing is very appropriate and very common to update the plan. You can look at the mix of residential, like multifamily versus single family, the different densities, and try to put in some targets and even locations of where you want those sorts of densities.
yeah,
So that can all be mapped out and put on there. And then that also then will sort of direct you to your ultimate build out. If you figure out the mix of densities you want, where you want to keep agricultural forever, and then you kind of get a projected total population, or get close to it at least. And if that's something that makes sense, then you're good. Or you just keep on tweaking that mix of densities
Yeah,
to get what you want.
yeah. And hand in hand, I think you need to maybe have a sit down with some of the places where we would like to see a change of zoning and see if we can get some buy-in. We're not going to get it on a lot of it, but we might get it on some of it. All right. Well, do you all have the agenda set for the retreat?
Yeah, it's still hasn't been finalized, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, good.
Is your retreat going to be in person?
We are supposed to decide that very soon, but I think we could do it in person at the in the large room at the center without much of a problem and keep everybody social distanced. And I think, Jim, if you'd be interested in coming, you could probably come at, I'll let you know about what time you might be able to come.
Okay, what's the date on that again?
That's 13th, Saturday the 13th.
Okay.
March. And I'll review the agenda and let you know if you need to come there even, you know.
Okay.
Because we certainly do need a spot for planning. I don't think there's really a spot on there for planning at this moment, but.
Well, if it's in person and you have coffee and snacks, then I can just come and hang out in the back.
Well, you can also throw your 2 cents in every once in a while. You'll have your own table that you can eat at and get as messy as you want.
There you go.
All right, is there any other business?
How's everybody like that build out on the Pomida?
I haven't even driven. I need to do that. Right
It
now.
is huge, and it is way closer to marginal than I ever imagined.
Yeah.
Well, they're not finished with it. It's going to be a pretty big building there.
It's going to be very imposing.
Well, and they're going to put up 20 trees or something, whatever, how many trees they said they were putting up. So we'll see what that does.
Well, at least we held them to that. That'll help.
Yep.
There we go.
I have a question whenever you get to a point.
Oh, yes, Jim.
Couple times recently, I've received a notification where Teresa Pence has got a commercial building for rent or for lease or something like that in the central business district. Do we as a board have any obligation to inform her of our new, more restrictive, tenant that we're looking for?
Are we that much more restrictive on the square?
Well, I think he's referring to the office space percentage.
Yeah, we don't want a law office going in there or something like that.
Yeah, we're probably not to the 50% level yet. I don't know. Mendy, you did an analysis of that at one time, didn't you? And you know what the percentage is?
Yeah, it's been a year and a half since I did it.
Right.
But that's
New
actually
offices.
right. And that is actually it's not Teresa Pence's building, it's Mr. Bowling's building.
Will.
Thank you, Will. They would not be aware of that, and I honestly I don't know how you would go about doing that. I could check the percentages again, though. I have that information, but it's been probably 2 years since I worked on that, or a year and a half.
It's like in the 30s, though. It's in the 30s.
It seems like it was lower than 50.
Yeah, it was like 37, 38%, something like that. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
the
that sounds
building
about right.
Is the building you're talking about the building that faces the hut?
No, it's on the
No.
square.
It's actually right next to the boutique, Farmers Hardware Boutique. She was
Yeah.
had Shop Local in there.
It's where Molly's office used to be on the square.
On the
Yes,
side.
that's the one.
The Career Center?
It's right next to the green building.
It's just like,
Oh, come on. It's at the on the sidewalk. On the,
is it next to the vet?
It's a-
No, 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 no. It's
It's
right
next
next
to,
to,
it's next to Somerville Light, Gas and Water. Nobody knows that when Somerville Light, Gas and Water was on that corner, but they were. It was also
on-
there at the health department. The health department was right there.
There used to be a grocery
attached
store
to
Isn't
the
it by
there.
shelter insurance?
Okay, how about it's across the alleyway from the new mayor's office of the county? How about that?
Yeah.
New mayor's
That's
office.
probably more confusing.
Yeah,
since
I'm
it's
trying
there.
to.
Isn't it? It's on the
It's-
same street as Farmers Hardware, right?
It's the last building in the row of buildings with Farmers Hardware next to the alley.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's old Sippins.
On what?
So it's where the old-
It would be
old
one
thing-
door down from Sippins.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
I didn't mean to start a fight, I'm sorry. But we would have some hurt feelings if we had, if somebody had what they thought was a tenant and then we had said, sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna have to deal with that at some point.
Is that a real visible building? I mean, is it a?
Well, apparently no one knows where it is.
No,
Is
no,
it?
no, George doesn't know where it is. Everybody else knew where it was.
Apparently,
I
yeah.
don't know where it is. Is it facing the alleyway?
It's on the alley, yes.
It's on
It's
the alley.
right next
It's
to
adjacent
Farmers
to the
Hardware
alley.
Boutique.
It's on the corner of the alley and West
Market.
Market. I mean, West Market.
That's correct. That's right.
The old school board building is on the one side of the alley and this building is on the other side of the alley,
Next to where
Oh.
Sippins was.
right next to the green building, right next to the building they painted green.
But we did have the DA's office. They have moved over to the they have, well, they're renting the Clayton Bank building and they moved in yesterday from the courthouse. So we do have a tenant in the old Clayton's building.
Is that the DA or the public defender?
I think it's the DA.
Yeah, the public defender's down with me.
Yeah.
Of course, that building that you're talking about was remodeled years ago into offices. I don't know how you could say to a person that you now have to make that a retail store.
Right.
Because you'd be talking about having to gut the entire building and
Mhm.
redo it.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it screams out for a real estate office,
Yeah.
but I just want to make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
We
I-
were not at a point on any of our percentages that we were scared. We weren't close enough to any of our percentages a year and a half ago.
I was just worried that George Burns fellow might have put it over the top.
Right.
is
Right, I
retail.
understand.
Hey, this is retail. Can y'all not walk by my showcase windows and see the models I'm selling?
Yeah.
And I love them, George. I think it looks fantastic.
Thank you.
I wish you would sell some toys or something that were those models. That would be even cooler.
Yeah, little dollhouse.
How about model kits for kids to put together?
There you go.
Some assembly required.
That would be cool.
Just have a pile of balsa woods. Here, kid, go put some.
I think that'd be great. I
I
used
put
to
one
make
of those-
airplanes out of that.
I took
I did
3 months
too.
of life putting one of those dollhouses together with all that balsa wood junk.
Mhm.
Daughter, long time ago, 30 years ago. After the meeting, Mayor and Jim, can you hang on for a little while?
Yeah.
All
Thank
right. All right, then, if there's no other business, is there any other business? Last call. Not hearing any other business, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.